Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan Stuart. Let's get into it.
Hi, Lockie. Welcome to Never Fully Heard. Thank you for coming on.
Nick, thanks for having me on, mate. It's exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, cheers. Where I usually start is the beginning of people's journey with mental health. So, where I want to start is what was the moment where you first understood what mental health even was?
Mental health didn't, I guess, come into my awareness until probably 2014. There had been many moments where it should have made sense, but I think like many of us, I'd heard about it, but because it was always attached to a stigma that it was a bad thing. I'd had mates, my first mate took his life by suicide at 14, and I still, once again, he was on the front page of our local paper because he was an amazing athlete, and never saw professional help, never spoke about it with anyone. I kept the clippings of the paper and would pull it out from under the bed and cry about it and think about it. But it wasn't until later that I realized that mental health was something that we could work on, because for a long period, as I mentioned, it's like if you avoid it, you don't need to deal with it. And for a certain period of time, you can push things away. But recently I realized that mental health was much like physical health. If you educated yourself around it, if you practiced self-awareness around it, you could really give yourself the best opportunity to be in control of it. And obviously there's a difference between mental illness and mental health. So I'm talking to mental health there. There are so many things that we have control and power over.
And in that moment when you were, 14, did you ever express your feelings with your friends that you were crying, or you had those?
No, never. It's such a shame because I don't feel I ever got to truly mourn my mate. And there were so many of us who attended this funeral, and the only two people that I remember crying were his cousins, and they were also amazing athletes, and they were bawling, and I was sitting there and I wanted to cry, but I just couldn't let myself cry for whatever reason. So I wish that, at that time I could express how I felt. I wish that, even to be honest, no one around me ever asked how I felt about it. And once again, not having it's nothing on them. It's just where we grew up. We grew up in a smaller country town. Once again, people didn't necessarily talk about it. So it's no one's fault, but it is an opportunity that was missed to talk about. And once again, I didn't think about it for so many years. I was like, life goes on, which it does. Life always goes on. But there was things that I could have learned, things that I could have spoken about, but also, I guess, to flip that on its head, part of that motivated me to want to, do something for other people as well.
Yeah, what just popped into my mind is when you said life goes on, but if life's going on and all we have is the present moment as such, and your present moment is tortured by traumas or moments that you haven't kind of been able to process and let go of, then is life really kind of moving on? And what I wanted to ask was, what were some of the thoughts that came up in that moment that you suppressed, that you maybe some of the more emotional feelings that you went on, I can't express that? What were some of those thoughts that you wanted to express?
Just sadness. And it's just to try and understand why. Like, there's so many things around why someone would take their life, especially when in our eyes, you were assigned professional football. obviously 14, but he was signed to a professional team. He was winning Australian titles for 100 and 200. Like, he was a freak athlete. And for many of us where I grew up, it's like that's where we wanted to be. That's what I aspired to be like. So to look at what my idea of success was and to see someone who had that in the palm of their hands could take that away, I was confused. I was frustrated because I was also like, well, I want everything that you've got, and you just, the outcome that happened, you took your life. So there was so many anger, sadness, frustration, just, I guess, small amounts of guilt. Like, could we have done anything? What did we miss? Were all things that I guess at that time I was really trying to deal with. But, as you said, does life go on even if you've got bits of trauma? It does. Everyone's living with something. And for some of us, it is debilitating. You look at PTSD. For others, some people seem to just coast through life and it's like it never happened. And I think experiences happen to all of us in any given day. And you and I could experience the same event, Nick, and we could perceive it and interpret it and give it a different meaning. And one of the things that I've, I guess, learned from that, and, we had another mate pass away literally last Monday. So that's 2 weeks ago nearly. And so that's 7 from our year that have passed away. And people are like, it's sad, and it's extremely sad. But to me, it's also part of life. And I think trauma is part of life. I think, hurt, and people probably disagree, and, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But for me, it's okay, well, these things have happened to me, and these, experiences have happened to you and many people. But me sitting there holding on to guilt, thinking about myself in a negative light, making myself not be able to enjoy what's here and now and also to come, is not doing anyone a service. So for me, it's like, okay, well, I'm working on stuff every day, but I don't feel like I need to do a lot of this deep trauma work anymore. Once again, I did, but there's things that I want to work on, but I also want to live my life. Like, I really, really want to be present. I've got so many great things happening and stresses, but I think if I just go, look, there's been so much trauma and death in my life, I'm fucked up, that's where I'll stay. And I don't want to stay there.
It seems like you've done an incredible amount of work to process that. But a lot of people, I guess, either haven't been exposed to it or don't know how to deal with that or bring it up with their friends. I guess, what journey did you go on to get to the point where you can express yourself so openly and vulnerably about the journey that you've been on?
For me, it was that point where I realized that I didn't like who I was. It's like the first time where you can sit there and go, look, I fucking hate myself. I'm drinking myself to oblivion. I'm legitimately taking recreational drugs, and I'm like, I don't care if I wake up, and I'm doing things that I don't necessarily want to be doing, but there's consequences. And I realized in that moment that my life's going to go one of two ways. I'm going to either end up dead or I'm going to end up in prison. And there was an incident that happened, or a moment that happened, and I had I got a great family. I had a great education. I had, played high level sport and done all of those things. And there was within that incident, I was like, I'm better than this. How my life is playing out is not how I pictured it to happen, but I'm the one who's put myself here. I'm blaming everyone else as to why I'm sitting in this position that I'm sitting in right now. And without I say every skill is trainable, which I believe it is. At the moment, in that moment, I didn't realize that's what it was. But the moment that sort of sunk in, my whole life changed. I made a decision that I wasn't going to drink anymore. At that point, I drink now, but I made a decision. I made a decision that I wanted to hang around different people. I made a decision that I wasn't going to go out partying. I made a decision that I was going to read books. And within that whole experience and process, literally, it's like I did a 360. And from that moment, I learned that I could talk about things. I could improve certain skills that I know I needed to improve. And if I bring things back to rugby, like I was playing, it's like, what happens to be successful? One, you're a part of a like-minded team, right? You got a team behind you who want to win a common goal. The team that I was hanging around wasn't, going in the direction that I wanted to go in. So I needed to change my environment. Leadership. I lacked leadership. I lacked leadership for my life, and I lacked leadership from those around me to help support me and empower me. I needed to change that. And I wasn't taking care of the other areas of my mental health and physical health that I knew I had control over. And like we were saying, I didn't know necessarily where to start. This was all like, okay, I need to change my environment. I changed my environment. The people that I started hanging around valued their health and fitness. I thought when you weren't playing professional anymore, you don't do sport. You drink beers and party. I then started realizing that all of these people were very optimistic. They saw opportunity. They said yes to experiences, and they were really empowered people. I was like, are these guys drank the Kool-Aid? What's going on? And then I just realized, no, they just love what's in front of them. I didn't at the time. I realized that they read a lot. Right? They were continuing to fuel their mind. So I was like, cool. Let's start doing what they do and let's see what happens. And it literally changed my life. I learned how to communicate better. I learned how to lead better. I learned how to make decisions better and, guide the direction of my life. And there were a few of, I guess, the ripple effects of working out what necessarily needed to be changed or starting that journey. But it all, to be fair, started with a decision.
That's so powerful, such a powerful message. But there's a lot of people that get exposed to that information, right? There's a lot of self-development content out there, whether it's on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever it is, and people get exposed to it and they may know the steps. I think a lot of people that are in a bad space actually know what to do, but for some reason there's resistance, whether it's like their identity, whether it's their ego, whether it's some form of resistance. What do you think the most common forms are for people, and men in particular, to reach out for help and change some of the bits they know they should change?
I think it's environment. Legitimately, I look at the life that I have right now and the communication that I have with people in my life, and all that changed was the people around me want to communicate as openly. And, we talk about vulnerability, or I just call it honesty, as honestly as I do. And there's no judgment within that communication. Australian culture, from what I've experienced, there's a lot of banter, which once again, a lot of the time there's no malice behind it. It's just, it is what it is, right? She'll be right. And I get amongst all of that. Don't get me wrong. But there also needs to be a time and place where you can say to your mates, hey, this is what's really going on. And the cool thing about that is I guarantee if you're hanging out with 10 people, 9 of them will go, I'm experiencing the same thing, or I've been through that. Here's how it played out for me. Right? So many people, so many blokes in particular, are craving to have conversations like this. And if you feel like you're walking alone, or you're like, where do I start with this? 6 years ago, I started running a men's group, right? And the whole purpose of that was because from my, I guess, the process that I went through and my journey was I started speaking and I started sharing what was I was just being honest. Right? I'm struggling with this. This is how I've overcome it. This is what's pissing me off. This is what I don't understand. This is what I'm learning. And a lot of blokes started messaging me. And that's the moment that I realized, fuck, everyone's experiencing this. So I was like, how cool would it be to just put on this event or this space where blokes come together and we just talk? I was like, I want to learn from people, because if people share how openly I am, I'm going to get a bucket load out of it. So we ran that event, and literally we have blokes from all walks of life. We have, 7-8 figure income earners, lawyers, doctors, all the way down to 17-year-olds, 18-year-old blokes who are just coming out of school, and they're aspiring to be like these lawyers, doctors, tradespeople, business owners, family men, and they're all communicating on an even level. There's no hierarchy. It's just like you're having a trouble in your relationship. What's going on? I'm experiencing the same thing. Have you tried improving your communication? Have you tried working on your emotional regulation or management? And people are like, what the fuck is that? You're like, oh, read this book or listen to this podcast. And this is where you start getting these gems that put pieces in the puzzle around what you need to learn as a man in order to be the better version of yourself, which is going to improve these things in your life. Because as you said, so many of us don't know things. I don't know so much, but I know if I hang around people who are, I guess, striving for excellence in various areas of their life, I'm going to learn these things at the right time.
I think what came through that is a sense of personal responsibility, right? You took it on yourself to start sharing and be open and to take that decision, as you said it, to change your life. And then you holding that space for other people being like, fuck it, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be honest here. And then you taking that courage meant other people could go, oh, right, now I can say it. Now that gives me the moment to do it. It's so bad. What drove you to want to do it for other people? Because there's some people that like doing it for themselves, but then there's not many people like yourself that have gone out and tried to help other men do the same thing.
It came from me not knowing what was next for me. So after I retired from rugby, I wasn't smart enough, or I didn't believe I was smart enough to go to university or tertiary education. And I thought I was better than being a tradesperson, right? Completely skewed beliefs. So I didn't know what was going to be next for me. And all that was, I guess, the opportunity that was in front of me was working for my dad, who was a carpenter. So I started being a labourer. Then I did my trade as a chippy, as a builder. So I ended up in the trade sector, but I wasn't happy. And this was about the time where I started going on this growth journey, and I got so excited by it. So it started from a selfish reason. Like, I was genuinely pumped to think that I could change things in my life, and I was genuinely excited to learn to communicate better, to express my ideas. Like, it was just phenomenal. And there came a point where there's a fork in the road. It's like, okay, I hate carpentry. It's not for me. The environment's not the best. The pay is not good. The flexibility is not good. I want something better. And then I had an opportunity. Obviously, I got into a different profession in network marketing, which taught me a whole heap of things. But through that, I was developing my skill, building skills, building teams, leadership, etc. And when the opportunity came, I was like, I don't like that. I learned a lot of great stuff, but I love personal development. I love building community, because literally the business that I've built, I'm hanging around every day people that I would hang out with regardless. You know what I mean? So and people talk about it all the time. It's like, if you can find something that gives you purpose, helps you, you can earn a living from, and it inspires you to be the best version of yourself, you've got this perfect thing in front of you. And that's what I had in front of me. And I never wanted to be a coach. I thought coaches were, once again, people who couldn't get a real job. But I was like, fuck it. I'm genuinely happy when I do this. Like, I legitimately love it. I work so much more than I get paid for, but I'm so happy to do it.
Yeah, you can feel it in the energy in your voice and how you talk about it. It's so few people will speak about their jobs like you do, speak about what you do. So I think that's really special. And when people come to your group and the men's group?
Gentlemen, just a quick interruption. I won't be long. I want to talk to you about our Strong Men of Values starter plan. It is new, and it is for those of you who are ready to find out more about what our academy is like. It's that first step to becoming the best version of yourself. In the starter plan, you get our comprehensive fitness programming, including access to MyFitnessPal, and you're able to synchronize your smartwatch so that you'll have all the tools you need to succeed. On top of that, you will receive a monthly group coaching call recording and a worksheet so you can learn and implement those things around mindset and health. Plus, you can download our 12-week game plan to help you stay on track. Men in our academy are seeing improved strength, improved confidence, better communication. They're improving their relationships, and they have a newfound awareness of how their actions can impact their quality of life. So if you're ready to get started, you can join today from $12.50 a week and start taking that first step to becoming the best version of yourself. Let's get back into the episode.
What are some of the common things? What are some of the common threads that you see across men's mental health that they're kind of struggling with at the moment?
There's three, and we'll go 3.5 because there's one that's pretty big as well. But one, it's firstly financial stress. Like people really struggle with finances and they don't even talk about it because as men, we have this idea that we need to be the protector and provider and talk about money all the time. No one gives a fuck about money. Like we give a fuck about what it can give us. So I didn't ask if I can swear on this, but I'm going anyway. The second one is relationships. Okay, so relationships, in order to have a great relationship, there are some very fundamental things that we need to learn. Emotional intelligence being one of it. 2 is communication. 3 is management/decision making. If you can learn those skills, you'll have incredible relationships. The third one is, what did I say? Fitness. Sorry, I didn't say fitness. Bereavement. So dealing with sadness and emotions. So they're the main things that come up because in going off Australian statistics, the biggest reasons why men take their life by suicide is financial stress, relationship breakdown, and sadness from not being able to express things that are going on in their life. So they're the main things that always come up in circle. And I would say, to be honest, the most important thing is the relationships. The amount of blokes that are going, or couples that are going through divorce, is mind-blowing. And a lot of the time, what happens for us is we've left it too late. We go, I need to work on my relationship. 10 years after me being a poor communicator, not showing up, all of these things that happen, we think my wife or husband decided to, break up with me or dump my ass. It's like, that wasn't just a split decision. That's been happening for a long time. And you may have been focused on earning money and providing for the family, but there are other needs, right? And so if you can get clear on what those things are for you and even for your mates, right? And it's like, okay, well, if one of your mates goes through a relationship breakdown, give them more support. Don't have to be like, oh, bro, hug me and hold me and all this sort of stuff. It's just like, just catch up for a beer more regularly because they may need to have those conversations. If your mate lost his job or the economy at the moment, some people are going to be struggling. A lot of people are going to be struggling. Once again, lean in on those mates. Let them know that you're there by being there, not by just saying, hey, text me if you need it. Be there. And work on the communication. Right? Many of us are great at talking and communicating over a pint. Right? We can do that, but take the pint away. How well do you know your mates? What do you really talk about? Once again, love talking sport, love talking shit. That's fine. But how well do you know how their relationship's going or how their children are going or how their career's going or what they're excited about? If you don't get those conversations, you need to, once again, look at yourself and go, okay, how can I be better at holding space? How can I be better at communicating? What am I not doing here that can improve our relationship? Sometimes the relationships, you have to walk away from because they're never going to get that, I guess, that depth or connection that I believe good quality relationships need. And other times you're going to have this relationship that you go, wow, we've been mates for 10 years and I've learned more about you in the last 3 weeks than I have in literally the last 10 years. And that's when you're like, what the work that you're doing is improving your relationships.
Did you feel like you were seeking the level of camaraderie you had from high-level sports? I'm wondering, did that play into it, wanting to create like another group of men that kind of came together and had that camaraderie? Was that a part of it?
Yeah, 100%. Because what most people and anyone who's played team sports will understand this. What you get from team sports, and actually this could be from arts, dramas, all that, the whole community side of things, is you get your role in the team, right? And when you feel like you have a role in a team, you feel like you belong to something. You're a part of something bigger than yourself. That is what we're craving. As human beings, we want to feel connected and we want to feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves. So regardless of whether I got it from what I've created now, I was going to be craving it. I had it. And sometimes it was in a positive, it gave me positive things. Other times it wasn't so positive when I was drinking more, taking drugs, etc. I still was wanting the connection. The people I was getting that connection from wasn't really vibing with where I wanted to go in my life. So anyone who's even listening to this has it in some way, shape, or form, but we need to do, it's like do a social check. The people that you're hanging around have a look at their life. And this is, when you look at judgment, people go, you shouldn't judge. It's like, well, it's not about judging and putting people down. It's just about judging and going, hey, do I want what they have? Because chances are, if you're spending a lot of time around that person, your life's going to go in a very similar direction. So ask yourself, this is what I had to ask myself is like, okay, well, financially, where were they at? Did they have the financial means that they weren't going to be stressed about certain things? I was like, nope. All right. I need to look for people who have a certain income that have that. Health-wise, I was struggling. I came from being an athlete to being a dude who was living off chocolate milk and cherry ripes and meat pies, right? So my nutrition was terrible. My sleep was terrible. To then also my mental, like how I thought about myself, I despised myself. So I had to go, okay, well, the people around me are in very similar circumstances, right? We aren't happy unless we're drinking beers. I needed to change that. So then I started going, okay, where are these people? How can I get around those people? Because the environment is so bloody important. And I did a social check and I continue to do social checks to this day. It's like, okay, but we get so attached to keeping people in our life. Even, if we've had a mate since we were 5 years old, sometimes you have that fork in the road moment where it's like, look, we aren't the same people anymore. We don't want the same things, but many people hold on to those relationships just because it's the longest serving relationship you have. We need to ask ourselves, okay, this person, look, I've got people in my life that are like this, right? Great people, lifetime of memories. But you have to ask yourself, do I want to enhance my time with this person, which means I spend more time around them? Do I want to disassociate myself from them, meaning, or, distance myself from this person, meaning you might catch up with them once a month or once a quarter? Or do I want to completely remove that person from my life? It gives us a choice. Because there's people that I did remove myself from for a number of years. And then I was like, man, I miss that person. Even though if I spend too much time around them, it doesn't bring out the best in me. I still miss that person and I want them in my life. So once again, this comes back to awareness around what you want, who you are, how these people influence you, and how much time you can, spend around them before the influence rubs off in a positive or negative way.
Yeah, it's so good. Like that balance of boundaries, because there's some people in my life who I just love hanging around with for a period of time. But if it was to enhance my life, then it wouldn't be the case if I spent all my time with them. But yeah. And then there's other people who I don't spend enough time with who I want to, but it's just about carving out that. I think it's like, I guess the word is intention, right? If you've created that desire to have a future life and you've detailed out how that is, you have to be about intention about what you do. You can't just be intentionally spending multiple days a week doing things that are going to not move you forward. And another thing that popped up was it sounded like part of your identity at times was in acts of service or doing things. And when you weren't doing those things like professional sports, or when you weren't, have you struggled at times with identity around what your worth is outside of like what you do for work? Because I know that's something that men have struggled with.
Definitely. Probably up until 6 years ago, like that was a big thing. It was always around like obviously being an athlete, but then it was like, okay, well, what can I do that's going to put me in a position where people recognize me and it's got status and various things like that. But what I've been very fortunate to have mates who've done incredible things, met people that are and have done incredible things. But the thing that I learned from a lot of them is no matter how rich, famous you become, there's still only a few things that are extremely important to people. And there's a great book that if you haven't read it, The 5 Truths of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. She was a palliative care nurse, and she talks about it, those 5 things which sort of lead to it. It's like, okay, well, my identity is not based around materialistic possessions. I'm a really simple bloke, Nick. Like most of the things I own are books. Aside from that, it's like, okay, I'm attached to what I want from my life. So how I live my life and the decisions that I make is based around one, connection. So I'm not attached to people. I love my wife and everyone that I have good mates with, but I understand that a lot of people are temporary in my life because we're going to grow in different directions. We want different things, but they may serve, we may serve an exchange of value for a certain period of time. So connection's important. As soon as that's not there, I'm not going to invest time in it. The second thing is health. Health is, for me, is mental, physical, spiritual, all of that. So I train every day. I, look after my body nonstop because it's what allows me to do what I do. It allows me to adventure, to travel, to work hard, to do all these incredible things. The same with my mind, right? So everything that I guess, base my life on comes back to that. And the final one is flexibility, or freedom is what I call it. But it comes through flexibility, being location free. Once again, having my business built the way it's built. I want to have the flexibility to be able to do what I want when I become a father one day, be able to stay at home and actually be a father. Like a stay-at-home dad would be awesome. But also to have the choice, right? And the choice comes through a certain financial means. And that means having my business, once again, to have avenues that bring enough money and why I do step back on certain things. So I've thought about a lot of things. And regardless of what specifically gives that to me, that's still what I'm striving for. The connection, the health, and the freedom. Right, so at any point in my life, that can change. But it's like, okay, well, as long as these have been ticked, if someone presents an opportunity to me, does this tick those boxes, or does this allow me to achieve more of what I want to achieve? If no dramas. It's a no.
It is so powerful. And in building that, right, that's not an easy thing to have to be able to tick all those and to be able to achieve that in life. It's a goal of many people to achieve the flexibility and to have a business that which can sustain them and their family. What sacrifices have you had to make along the way to get to building that kind of life around you?
I guess before I talk about this, I don't have children yet, and I'm only recently married. So I guess to paint the picture of, I had time to do these things because, once again, I didn't have any significant commitments. I didn't have a house at the time, anything. So I was afforded the opportunity to invest a lot of time in building a business. So the sacrifices that, to me, that I believe were sacrifices was I stopped watching sport. Like, I love sport. Stopped watching sport. Stopped partying. Stopped drinking. I ate really well, and I just literally lived and breathed building a business. Because for me, I spoke about before relationships, health, finances being like some of the most important things or biggest topics that men discuss at our meetings. For me, it was finances. I was one of those blokes who, when I went to fuel up the car, I was like, fuck, I hope there's enough money in there to pay. I'll just fuel it up a quarter at a time. I still remember driving in the driveway one day being like, if I could just have $1,000 savings in my bank account, I'm going to be the happiest dude alive. Like, the happiest dude. And from that moment, it's been like, okay, I need to find a way to do that. And I have tried through sport. I've tried being what I believed I needed to be to create that. It didn't work well, and it came with a lot of drawbacks. There's always upsides, but there's also downsides. The question you need to ask yourself is, can you live with the downsides? I couldn't live with the downsides of the culture that I was involved in personally. Some people kill it. For me, not so much. So once again, that's how, I guess, the opportunity that fell in my lap of the business that I've created now, it's like, one, it allows me to live what I believe is important to me. It holds me to a higher standard. And, the lifestyle that I get, it's a tick, tick, tick. And every day, it's literally only been the last 18 months that I've been in that position. I've been grinding at it since 2014. Right? And I've still got a long way to go. Don't get me wrong, Nick. I've got a long way to go, but I've invested over probably $200,000 in myself now, traveling, learning from the best people. I read like a maniac. I network. I've built an incredible network of people, including yourself, from people all around the world who are exceptional in various things. And I'm comfortable being wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say it's been really one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out is because it's really inspirational, because so many people talk about wanting to do something for themselves, and they talk about, oh, it'd be great to have my own business, or it'd be great to have more flexibility, it'd be great to have that freedom, it'd be great to, but so few people actually go out and do it. And even just the way you speak about it, it's I can imagine just so many people being motivated by hearing what you're up to. And I guess for the one thing, for even people like myself, for someone who's on the edge of, I guess, going all in on certain projects or certain bits of their life, but one of the things I worry about is it's in actually that 5 regrets of the dying is one of it's I wish I hadn't worked so much. And even recently there's been a few friends who I am good friends with, but they're not like my best mates, have texted me and been like, oh, should we meet up? Haven't done anything in a while. And I know that if I went all in, I would have to lose that friendship. And that's the thing that's playing on my mind when I think about working that hard, is because I don't know if I have the energy to give a good friendship to more than a certain amount of people. And then outside of that, I worry that I'm going to regret losing some of my friendships in the process of building it. But this is where I get so much more fulfillment than a lot of other stuff. So it's
I think, look, knowing what I know now, I wish, and I do believe that you can balance it all. It's about identifying what the value is that you give to those certain relationships and managing that, right? Because in order for you to be, I believe, in order for all of us to be successful with anything, management is key, right? So most people know that between 9 and 5, they go into work and they have specific tasks that they need to get done. They don't manage anything else outside of that. They just hope that a mate will message them and they'll catch up, or they hope that they'll get invited to a football game, or, they hope that life will happen for them. Get clear on what it is that is important to you, right? Most people spend more time on Instagram than they do catching up with mates. So where I would challenge you on that, Nick, is, you're working and you're wanting to do something for yourself, which I believe you will absolutely crush. And when I say crush in Australian language terms, it means kill it. Some people are like, what you mean I'll bomb it at it? That's not good. Is going, okay, well, which of those relationships are important to you? And what does the value, you spoke about before, intention. What is the intent of those relationships? Because even time with your partner, right? Like my time with my wife, we're both busy. And sometimes we are very fortunate to spend ages. She travels a lot. I travel. Time together, but it's not about the time together if you're sitting on your phone. It's about how you're spending that time together. So a 5-minute phone call to your mates is beneficial if you're, making it beneficial. So it's about, asking your mates, what do they need from the relationship? And I know that's a weird question to ask a mate, but you could say, look, I'm about to kick off going all in on a business, and I believe it's going to require a lot of time. And the time that I'm looking to give to that could be, 15 hours a week or whatever. But I still value our relationship. Like every month, let's do something gnarly. Like you choose it, or we'll take it in turns. I might choose a surf this month. You might choose whatever, go sit at the pub and watch a football game. But you work on it like that and book it in.
I am in marketing, which I use as my excuse, but an hour a day on social media, I'm like, if I took that time across the week, then I wouldn't have to lose any of these relationships. And I can't even tell you what I do on social media. It's just nothingness. Even though it's amazing for building connections, and that's how we connected. But I think that's so true. I'm really good at managing my work life and anything to do with like a business project, but outside of that, I'm very much guilty of letting things slip. Like no way would I let like a work meeting slip for a month. There's no way, but I'm happy doing that with one of my best friends.
It's wild, hey? I'm guilty of it too, man. Don't worry about that. I feel the next thing that you'll learn from management is efficiency, right? So you're going to learn through doing. Once again, none of this, everything that I've said doesn't matter if you don't take action. This is going from mental health, relationships, finances, none of it matters. But there's processes, and you can decompartmentalize everything to understand how it works for you and what's missing and what you need to learn. But there are going to be things that you start doing or are probably doing right now, Nick, that don't serve any value to you. Where you need to get good, I mentioned earlier, you need to get good at making decisions. Right? When you become great at making decisions and you're aware of which things are adding value, the best bang for your buck, best return on investment, do more of that. Fuck everything else off. You've probably read the book, The One Thing. Have you read the book? Oh, mate, read the book, The One Thing. Change your life. So what's the question that he gets you to answer for yourself is, what's the one thing that if it's the only thing I achieve today will have the biggest impact and make most of the other things irrelevant? So legitimately for me, I have from a marketing standpoint, it's like I batch all my content. I know what questions people are thinking about because we have a whole process. I do that. The biggest challenge I have, Nick, is going, what the fuck do I do with this free time? Because most of us are hardwired to go, I need to be busy and I need to be working. It's mind-blowing. So if you can start saying no to more things and go, okay, for you, what's your goal? You obviously have your career and then what you want to build, what's going to grow that brand, getting people to know about what you're doing and selling it. That's all you need to do. Everything else, systems, processes, websites, all that doesn't matter just yet until you get the foundation of what it is that you're creating. Everyone gets sold all this other crap. And once again, it becomes important as you grow. But at the beginning, it doesn't matter. It's like fitness, for example, Nick. Most people go, should I be doing carnivore diet? Should I be doing keto diet? Should I be doing CrossFit? It's overwhelming. It's like, brother, you just need to exercise consistently 5 days a week. And, let's say it's 10,000 steps a day and track your calories so we know where you're at. Just do that for me. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. Just get moving. And then we get feedback from that. Use the feedback to then go, righto, let's look at this, let's look at that. And it's constantly a game of decisions and you revise consistently.
I think it comes back to also, I know this is something that it happens a lot with my friends, is that there's a few of us that listen to podcasts, right? We always talk about, oh, did you listen to that podcast? Did you listen to this? And it's like, these are people dropping like wisdom bombs each week. And then if I really think about it, like, what did I actually put into practice? Am I just using this hour and a half that I've listened to this podcast just for entertainment? Or if I'd actually spent that hour and a half doing something which I know is going to make an impact, do you have any? I guess it's just do the thing, I guess that's the advice. But it's I feel like that's something I'm guilty of, is knowing what to do, listening to a podcast, reading a book, and then not taking action. It's definitely something I'm trying to sort out.
Well, I think it's still important. I don't want to be one of those guys who just say, just do it, because there was a long period of my life where people said that to me and I was still scratching my head going, what do you fucking mean? Like, I'm doing it. I thought I was doing it, but I was doing the wrong things. So this is, once again, why the most important thing I believe you can have is the network. Like, the fact that you and I are connected is amazing, because I'm learning so much from you and I'm going to continue to learn so much from you as a result of that, which is going to help me be better. Had we not connected, had we not have this conversation right now, I've just missed out on improving certain things. So people can tell me all the things in the world. Everyone knows how to get fit. Everyone knows how to get rich. Everyone knows how to start a podcast. There's Google, right? So what's missing? Accountability and the pat on or the kick up the ass to get going. Where does that come from? It comes from people, right? It comes from who you're surrounding yourself with. If you and I were to spend a week together, Nick, we would both be extremely productive. I guarantee you it, because we'd be feeding off each other's energy, right? You'd be like, I've done 10 podcasts this week. I'd be like, fuck, I'm doing 11, right? And the energy feeds energy. The beautiful thing about what you just said before was like, I'm continuing to listen to podcasts. Keep listening to podcasts, because you can't always be in the room with the people that you need to be around, right? When I began, I didn't have access to the people that I have access to, and a lot of people don't. But the fact that you can put on a podcast and listen to this, or people can listen to Gary Vee or Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan, it's like you're sitting in the room with these people. right? They may not know who you are, but that doesn't matter. You're still sitting in the fucking office with them. Utilize it. Even if that's what you need every day to be reminded on what's important and what excites you, do it.
I think there's something so powerful in the energy exchange, though. I think listening to podcasts is amazing. I think but getting in the room or getting on a video call and feeling the energy of someone that's found, like you have found, a route to success in what they wanted to do or the direction that they wanted to do, and that you can feel it in the way you speak. And I think if more people could get around that, whether it's through a men's group, whether it's through sports teams or trying to compete, I think that environment, as you said in the beginning, is just like so powerful, because you can't, even just in this conversation, I can't not be more fired up about wanting to make these changes in my life, and to keep doing this so I can help spread more messages to men and anyone. I think there's going to be a lot of women that have reached out to me, said they're interested to hear what men are struggling with and what I end up speaking about on here. But yeah, it's been so powerful to chat to you, and thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been a blast.
I appreciate you having me on. And Nick, you've put yourself in such an exciting position, because I don't know how frequently you're going to do the podcast, but every week or twice a week or whatever, you're going to be speaking with people who teach you something, who fire you up, and you're going to fire other people up. I'm so grateful for my podcast, because I'm doing the exact same thing every week. If I'm feeling lull, which happens, I get on a podcast. Like before this, I was pretty knackered, but I'm fucking amped up again. And because of you, it's like, thanks, mate. So you chose to do it, right? So you've got to pat yourself on the back and acknowledge that everything that's going to come to you in the future is because of these decisions that you've made.
I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.